Antarctica is a very mysterious place. Well, you have no reason not to be skeptical about like what's under the ice. This continent just keeps on getting stranger with like blood red waterfalls coming from the glacier.
This blood red waterfall might look like it's straight out of a horror film. But don't sweat the nightmares. There's a perfectly good explanation for Antarctica's blood falls. Scientists initially thought the color was caused by algae in the water, according to National Geographic. But a study in the journal Glaciology revealed its true cause using radar to scan the layers of ice. Located in Antarctica's McMurdo Dry Valleys, the falls pour from Taylor Glacier, and the liquid bubbles up from fissures in the glacier's surface. The red color wasn't the only mystery. The flow itself was also puzzling. After all, the mean temperature in the area is 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit. That's negative 17 degrees Celsius. And little glacial melting can be seen at the surface, so kind of weird. But imaging from underneath the glacier helped solve the mystery. The images revealed a complex network of subglacial rivers and a subglacial lake, all filled with brine high in iron, giving the falls its reddish color. According to the study, the makeup of the brine explains the fact that it flows instead of freezes. Basically, the brine remains liquid due to some sciencey stuff and elevated salt content. So that's all it is. The water is just really high in iron and has high salt content. The brine salt water oxidizes when it's exposed to air, becoming red much like rust.
This man called Admiral Richard Byrd was what you would call like an explorer or someone who likes to go on expeditions. So he went on an expedition to Antarctica, but he kept on sailing. And to his surprise, he came across an alleged ice wall. He went through that ice wall, and then what he saw, he was flabbergasted. I mean, he saw, as what he said, lands bigger than the Americas.
Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
Well, it's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well,
we've found enough coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We're pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the world. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
well,
It was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
isn't it?
Admiral Byrd passed away shortly after doing this interview. Check this one out. So we're gonna hear from this guy. He's a whistleblower, and he used to work in Antarctica. So he's gonna talk about the type of weaponry, the technology that they have going on right there. Take a look at this video.
Well, our next guest is a whistleblower who has testified to Congress under oath about what he saw while working at the South Pole, yes, in Antarctica. Eric Hecker is a former Navy and defense contractor for Raytheon. While working at the South Pole, Eric witnessed some stunning things, including directed energy weapons and other technologies that can trigger earthquakes. Also, intercepted communications. We'll talk about those very special communications. We'll get into all of that. These projects are off the books, highly illegal. Eric's position as a firefighter and plumber for the South Pole facility gave him unrestricted access to the compound. And Eric joins us now. Eric, thank you so much for doing this and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Clayton, so much for having me. I really appreciate the interest and attention that you're giving to this topic. So I'm very happy to be here and answer your questions.
Well, it's our pleasure, and thank you for your bravery in coming forward as a whistleblower to shed light on what has actually been happening at the South Pole. We've heard tangential reports about what's been happening at the South Pole in Antarctica since World War II, but no one with your level of access who's been able to come forward and testify to Congress as to what's been going on there. So thank you for doing that and your bravery. I do want to say that. Can you describe for our audience, let's start there. What was your job at the South Pole Station and when did you start?
Very simple. I was hired as a tradesman. My plumbing expertise, my heating expertise, and then they trained me up to be an industrial firefighter. It was part of the program. They sent me to the training. Those were the protocols. And that's what got me there. It really is that simple. I do understand a lot of people have very harsh criticisms of me in my role in having any knowledge or access. And I'm happy to engage any of these naysayers. I find it to be highly prejudiced that people, for some reason, believe that plumbers and firefighters are inherently unintelligent and can't be that aware of what's going on. And if anybody has seen the congressional hearings recently, even Anastasio Ortiz, whatever her name is, AOC, said that we need to focus a lot harder on the third-party contractors because we are the most informed people with the least amount of restriction on these particular types of facilities. So my role was simply a plumber / firefighter, and it gained me complete access to the facility.
To protect the facility, and you were there, I believe you started in 2010, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I started in November of 2010, and I ended in November of 2011. My count, to my recollection, was that I spent 366 days straight in Antarctica.
So you were on this base. When did the first alarm bell go off for you that something was afoot here? Was there a moment you said, wait a second.
When I applied for the job and found out that it was Raytheon Polar Services as the third-party contractor hiring for the National Science Foundation, that immediately set off red flags and bells whistling in my head because of my short time in the submarine service and my understanding of what Raytheon is doing on this planet. I did not understand. I mean, I come from the trades. I'm very aware of what it takes to do construction and maintain facilities. I find it highly questionable that the only contractors that get the contract to maintain the facility and provide janitorial services always seem to be military industrial contract weapons makers. So even before I even went there, absolutely, I already knew that this is false pretenses.
And when you were there, did anyone tell you, as you were transitioning to move there and go through the paperwork of transporting your life from the continental United States to the South Pole, were you told to keep quiet? Did you have to sign any non-disclosure agreements? Did you have to sign anything that what you were to see there where you would have to keep quiet about?
Absolutely not. And this is what I'm trying to impress upon people, is that the most secretive facilities are presented as normal operations. That's the cover story. It's also that simple. Everybody there is compartmentalized. The vast majority of the people in that facility have no idea what's going on in the room next to them.
Okay, now, if you want to see the full interview, it's on a YouTube channel called Redacted with Clayton and his and his wife. So you can leave your comments down below. Let's have a discussion on what you think that's actually going on down there in the South Pole. Peace.